So let's go through the teammate. So the first, actually, before we do, there is a player who's missing. He's been missing for a while, actually. But Casemiro, he's still playing for Manchester United. So he's not, let's say, he's not dropped off the face of the earth in terms of his career. He's still there. He's still playing at the highest level. But he's not considered for the Seleção. What's going on? What do you think has happened with him? Why has he not been selected?
The only two options available are one, and the most obvious, he's not performing. He's just not performing. I'm not gonna go into the whys he's not performing, the reasons, but he's just not performing. If you talk to a Man United fan, you're gonna listen to very bad things about Casemiro. Uh, and the other factor is his age. He's now 31, going 32, and for the World Cup, he would be 33, 34. So there's no point of like calling him up and taking a place of someone who could get more experience by playing more games, like get the chemistry going. Because you already have leaders like Marquinhos, like Alisson, like Vini, who's supposed to be a leader. Uh, but yeah, I don't see a point of Casemiro coming, and I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just what it is, and um, unfortunately, I love Casemiro. I love Casemiro. One of the best players, had that mentality of like breaking an Argentinian player in the middle into two parts, and I love that. Um, but yeah, it's just not. It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, it's just the time. I think players like him, because he covers a lot of ground, right? Or used to, let's say. I think those players they tend to break a little bit earlier. Like Conte. Um, I know he played well for France in the Euros, but before then, Conte had that drop off just before he was
Yeah,
around about 30. I think for those kind of players, they rely so much on intensity, getting across the pitch, covering
yeah,
ground, getting into tackles, you adjusting their body, twisting, turning. I think it just catches up with their body eventually, and they
yeah.
just have
Uh,
difficulty.
Yesterday, I was thinking, I was watching, like some reactions for, I think, Rio Ferdinand and also Ben Foster. Different perspectives about Casemiro, but I was watching them and I was thinking, maybe it's time for a change. Like maybe change the position. His role is wrong for the way they're playing
Maybe
now. The expectations that they have for him right now is it's completely out of Ten Hag is completely out of his mind. We all know that, but the Casemiro situation, it's completely exposing him, in my opinion. But as for Casemiro, I would consider, like maybe playing center back. I don't know. Um, let's. I need to analyze this better. Like to go deeper to state this. But yeah, I feel like a change of position would be a nice thing because he can't perform like 2 or 3 years ago. He can't anymore.
he
It's
did actually
obvious.
play. He did actually play centre back for Manchester United a couple of
Yeah,
times last season.
yeah, yeah.
Perhaps you're onto something there. Maybe I mean you've got players like Michael Carrick. They dropped into centre back. I think Fernandinho played a couple of games for Manchester City as centre back too under
Yes,
Pep. So
yes.
when they can't cover all the ground, maybe they just need to stay in a zone.
Yeah,
And the other key factor, of course, is that Real Madrid he had Modric and Kroos either side of him.
yeah.
So these guys bring the game to them, their speed, their tempo. So he's not
Yeah.
having to, oh, this guy's made a mistake. I have to cover across here. He's not having to do that as much. So that could be one reason.
And another reason is Ten Hag is expecting him to be a Kroos or Modric. He is not that kind of player. He doesn't dictate tempo. He doesn't go up and box. He's not a box to box. kind of player, you know. So it's I just want to emphasize that. Please, Tehan,
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah, I don't think Ten Hag's going to do anything about that. It's although Casemiro did have a strong first season in the Premier League, maybe he's just maybe it's all the system's fault. Let's see. So the next name on the list, mate, is Lucas Moura. So a bit of a surprise this one because, like you just pointed out to me, Savinho got injured. That's why he's out. You surprised he's been called up? Could there have been another name selected?
For sure, for sure. I maybe I don't want to bring Rafi into the conversation right now because I understand the point that the coach had made. Sorry, and but yeah, I wouldn't call Lucas for sure. You know, again, so I don't contradict myself. If I understand that Casemiro is not a player for Brazil right now because of his age, Lucas is coming just to fill this empty place that Savinho left, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I understand why now, but if he calls him up for the next games, then we'll have a conversation, you know? Like, I wouldn't allow.
Yeah, it makes some sense. I don't know where Rafinha is right now, but yeah, probably was a. By the way, the game's in
He
Brazil, right?
was he was suspended, so he stayed
Okay,
there in Brazil in Barcelona.
it makes sense.
He could play the second game against Paraguay, but the coach didn't see any point bringing him in, traveling for maybe and staying in Brazil for 10 days, not training with the club, and you know like put him to in an airplane and coming to Brazil just to play one game in some minutes, you know.
Yeah,
So I think it's a good thing because he has more liberty, freedom to test Stevão, test Luis Gustavo, test a few other players. And if he you know like Rafinha had come, so I don't think he would feel obliged to play him somehow.
yeah. So let's get into that part then. You touched on there the wingers. So out of the selection, we've got Rodrigo, Lucas Moura, Estevão, Luis Enrique. Who else am I? Am I missing somebody? No, that's
Um,
it. Vinny Jr., of course. So
yeah,
we've got those guys there. What do you think is the best fit, and who should be getting some time on the pitch? Estevão, Luis Enrique. What do you think?
May. I think everyone should play. Definitely, definitely. Um, we had a good performance against Paraguay in Copa America, so it's a nice test. You know, like to okay, let's secure the 3 points on the first game. You know, like gain confidence a little bit, then play against Paraguay, who we played in Copa America and won 3-0, I think 3-1. I don't know, I can
On it,
remember.
on I think. Fall on.
4-1, and test the kids, you know, test the kids. So uh, I think everybody should play. And the coach again, he tends to make those tests, and it'll feel good to see Estevão coming up. Bro. It'll feel really good. Also, Luis Gustavo, amazing player. If you haven't watch him because he's really good. He's showing a lot of composure for a winger when he cuts inside and comes to the box. So I'm very excited to watch him for playing for Brazil. So I think I think that the starting trio up there in the front would be Vinicius Junior, Hendrick as a striker, and Luis Enrique on the right, cutting inside, showing a lot of composure again in the box, and you know, like showing what he's got. That's it. What about you? Who will be?
I would have said, well, I was really wanting to say Luis and Vinny Jr., Hendrick, and Savinho because I thought that would have
Yes.
brought a lot of. I
Yeah.
thought it would brought something different, and it would be best to get that trio going.
Yeah.
However, with Savinho dropping out, and also I'm not sure if Dorival's going to start with Hendrick, but I would. I think he should go with Vinny Jr., Hendrick, and Rodrigo. That would be my three.
There's one thing though. Uh, on the list, Rodrigo was selected as a midfielder, so maybe he will play
Okay.
as a number 10. Paquetá will be a 8, and uh, BG will be number 5. Will be 5. So I
Okay.
think that's what's gonna happen.
Okay. So as we'll go back to some of these. No, actually, we'll stay on players and we'll come back to that in a moment because that midfield balance is something that I think is going to be really interesting because I think it's a big question. So let's talk about the players that people maybe not so familiar with. Luis Enrique for a start, right? So this is a guy who's been exceptional for Botafogo. Every single time I see Botafogo, this guy is electric. He's killing his fullback.
Yeah.
He wants to take players on. He faces them up straight away. And he's got the pace and the trickery to cause damage. And he's chipping with a few goals as well. The only thing that I'd say is sometimes his cross selection is quite bad. Um, Mostly he's like crosses from deep and his cutbacks that sometimes they're a bit wild. However, I did notice also, maybe I was being a bit harsh because then I saw him clip a couple of really interesting balls in that didn't look like they were possible, but he achieved them. So he definitely has it. And I wonder if that's why Betis let him go. But he's a really interesting player, right?
Yeah. Again, there's nothing to add after that comment, but uh, there there is also there's Brazilian players. Some Brazilian players when they play in Europe, there is this lack of confidence, or maybe the culture is too different and they don't adapt. And when they come back, and for example, Pedro played for Fiorentina, didn't perform, but now he is the best number 9 that we have. Luis Henrique tried his time in Spain for Betis, maybe played 11 games or 8 games, didn't perform at all, maybe scored one goal, but didn't perform mm, at all. When he comes to Brazil, I think the confidence, the club that he's playing now, Botafogo, which is the leader, um, gives him that the tools for him to perform. So when you watch him play, you see that he's very, very confident. That's why I said composed, because he has that confidence that, okay, I'm gonna take you on, come on, and bring it on. And it's amazing to see. It's amazing to see. Uh, Now covering that scenario, I tend to think that on an important game, playing for Brazil, the pressure is high, and my expectation is he's gonna play as in Botafogo or as in Betis, you
Hmm.
know. And I'm comparing Betis to Brazil, so yeah, I have high hopes, but yeah, there is also this thing in the back of my neck.
Yeah, no, I completely understand where you're coming with. It's a different scenario for Luis and Enrique because the Botafogo are full of energy. They're very efficient in counterattacks. They're very which helps him because he's able to get that space to take on his opposing fullback. I think the games that Botafogo struggled against, they tend to be against the smaller teams because they get counterattack
Yeah,
themselves. And maybe he
yeah,
doesn't have that. He doesn't have that. I won't say intelligence, but just when he's a bit more congested, he doesn't really have that space to kind of work his
yeah,
trickery and his skills. But when for example they play Flamengo or Palmeiras, Luis Enrique has more space, and you can see he's quite destructive. So you might be right, man. With Brazil, I think it might be a little bit more tricky for him to because it's about systems, right? You take a player from one system, put him in another system, and he's a completely different player. So
Yeah.
it could be the case with Luis Enrique. I hope not, because I want him to be
Me
part
too.
of the conversation when the World
Yeah.
Cup comes around. I like these surprise players when people are like, "Where's this guy come from?" But yeah, anything else on Luis Enrique, mate? Anything you want to add?
No, I think Luis Enrique is a great prospect. Excited to see him play, and I hope that he performs. That's pretty much it.
Great. Kyle, mate, tell the world everything you love about Stevao, and what are
Uh-huh.
you hoping for in this round of friendlies?
Oh man, Estevão. Oh my God. Uh, uh, for Estevão, I have higher hopes, bigger expectations than I had with Andrew. Like with Hendrick, and we had some expectations comparing him to Ronaldo. But with Stevão, now it's more like, okay, he's a winger. He takes on a lot, cuts inside. We've seen that a lot. But it's nice to have such a talented player, way more talented than Hendrick. And coming from my club, the club that I support in Brazil, also, it Estevão makes me want to watch every single game. It's like, for example, Savinho in Man City now. Estevão makes me want to watch games. So yeah, I'm actually really excited to watch Estevão play for Brazil. I don't think he's gonna play the first game if the coach keeps his the way he thinks for the next game. But I think Estevão is a very exciting prospect. I think the timing was perfect for Estevão to be called up right now. He's performing really well for Palmeiras. I think he will perform well in his first game. And even though I have higher expectations, if he doesn't perform, I'll be happy for Estevão just to be there. He is excited. So his first interview was amazing to watch, and I hope that Estevão performs amazingly. And I actually, one of the reasons, another reason is that I hope that Chelsea, by watching Estevão playing for Brazil, will be like, oh, we cannot loan or sell him. We have to make him play. So that's another reason.
Yeah, good reasons, and I'm with you on that, mate. It'd be exciting to see him, but I think you're right. I think the timing's right, but I also think it's one of those where they really need to manage his minutes,
Yeah.
because these are qualifiers. Brazil need to win. If they start him,
Yes.
then the expectation gets put on Stevao. You're here to help us qualify. I don't think that's healthy for him. I think it should be how Palmeiras gradually brought him in. It was like, get used to the tactical side of it. I want you to do things off the ball. I want you to come on against tired legs for the last 10 minutes, and then
Yes.
show us what you can do.
Yeah.
Because it happens quite often for young kids where they start and then there's a lot of expectation, and the game is too tense, too strategic, and the young player just can't get involved in the game, can't really get himself going in the way he wishes to,
Yeah.
and then they start to lose a bit of confidence in time. So I think the best thing is, as you said, really patient. Maybe like, let's see how the game goes against Ecuador. If things are going well, bring him on for the last 10, 15 minutes.
Yes.
Um,
If the
and
margin is
then
good.
yeah, and then I think when they play Paraguay, I think it could be an easier game, maybe at home as well. I think that's an opportunity where maybe he gets more minutes. But yeah, I think for Esteban now, it's just all about being part of the Seleção, understanding how it is to be there, how to train with these guys, how to be involved in these international competitions. I think for now, that's the remit. Any more than that is a bonus. So I think people who are thinking,
Yeah.
Esteban's in the squad now, get him in, get him scoring. I think you need to calm down and just don't get too far ahead of yourself.
Yes.
He needs to be managed.
Nice, well put. Nice, well put. Yeah.
Yeah, with young players, a lot of care needs to go. But like for example, Hendrik, do you think he's had that management with him in Seleção, or do you think he's been pushed a bit too much?
No, I think he not just it was handled exactly as it was supposed to be. He also delivered. So uh, when you have that combination, Endrick coming up, being called up, playing against England, playing against Spain, performing, scoring, and in that big scenario against bigger, very big nations, that sets him like to be the number nine, and that's the correct number for him now. He when he started for Real Madrid, he scored. So yeah, there's nothing else to be okay. We have to still be careful around him, but again, if Pedro is not there, there's no doubt that he is on the starting 11, and I hope he performs. Again, no one performs every game, but let's just wait and hope. That's it.
Yeah,
Endrick is not a prospect anymore. He's become reality, you know.
yeah, he's had to grow up very, very quickly, right? Such a young man, it's challenging. But yeah, I think expectation on him is still a little bit too too much right now. Not in a way like not in a
But
way that
that is his fault. Remember that we talked about the way he handles press? It
yeah
was too much. That's his fault. We're not talking about the way he plays. We're talking about the way he talks or who he is or how he handles stuff. But we're not like questioning, oh, is he the number nine? Oh, can he perform? Can he score for Brazil? Those questions are answered and done, sealed and sent. But now he has to Endrick has to learn how to deal with the press in a different way because the situation is changed, you change. So yeah, Endrick has to deal better with press. I don't know if you saw that Bellingham called him Bob. It
yeah
was
everyone calls him
amazing,
Bobby.
amazing, amazing, and I hope he's doing well. I think he is, and yeah, I hope that continues.
I hope that he took that as a joke. Like if he's taking it all really lightly, I think that's a good sign. If he's taking it quite tense, then and he's quite uptight about it, then I think that's when you need to be a little bit worried because when players get tense and uptight, you know how things can turn into a negative. But if he's light about it and happy and joking, I think it's a better sign. So, mate, let's move on to I think it's a bigger question for Brazil, and the reason why I think sure, the reason why I think it's a bigger question for Brazil is because I think it's what makes Brazil tick. So over the years, Brazil have had a midfield that can play the way it needs to. Whether it's like you like destructive and then you have Kaká like that further ahead who are like,
You
can you hear
you
me, mate?
you're breaking up. You're breaking up.
I was like, okay, I'll
Yeah.
start again. So yeah, well, the reason why, mate, I think this is the most important discussion for Seleção is because I think it's what makes Brazil, any team really tick that middle of the field, right? If that's not right, if the combination isn't right, you're going to get a lot of losses of possession. You're not going to dominate games. You're not going to control games. You're not going to be able to really kind of break teams' attacks up, and you're not going to be able to get the balls into the right areas to get the ball into Vinny Jr. and stuff like that. It's going to break down. I think Denise had a lot of problems with that, like getting the players to adapt to his system, like that midfield balance. And I'm not even sure Dorival's got that right either because he's gone with João Gomes alongside Bruno Guimaraes and Paquetá, right? So on paper, it looks like the balance is right on paper, but for some reason, it's not really functioning right. Like Joao Gomez is not, and I think this is because at Wolves he functions different, right? At Wolves, it's more about break play up, drive forward with the ball, and cover longer distances. Whereas at Brazil, this is not your job. Your job is to receive the ball deep and then like kind of like control it a bit, and then be quick to break up play and then get your team going again. Whereas Joao Gomez is he can do the short actions very well. So he can break up play and then he can give it to the player next to him well. I think he can do that superbly. I really like him for this. But like I said, I don't know if that suits Brazil. I think Brazil need a more technically refined player there, right? Someone who is a magnet to the ball, can get into spaces to receive it from the defenders and then progress the ball. Whereas Joao Gomez is not that. We've been through this before, right? But Joao Gomez is not really that kind of player. Guimarães, he can do those things, of course, but he's more about operating all around the spaces, not dropping too far back and breaking up play, I don't think. So
Yeah.
what do you think is the solution there, which is the three from the selection we've got?
From this selection, I can't really. What I can tell from this selection for our midfield is that I I don't have any expectation that um, our coach is gonna select the ones that I want to play. I want to play. For example, it's gonna be Bruno Guimarães, Paquetá, and Rodrigo as a 10. I don't think defensively that's good. I feel like Paquetá should be the number 10. Bruno Guimarães should be number 8. And we should have André as number 5. That's, for me, the best selection from from the players that we have right now. But for me, man, I'll say it as many times as I can. For me, Douglas Luiz is supposed to be our 8 because he has that quality, that passing quality for long range passes, switching flanks, finding the spaces for a counter attack, for Vini Jr. to attack, for like that well organized and very qualified transition that he had in Real Madrid, for example. Vini Jr. had in Real Madrid with Kroos. And I think Douglas Luiz is our best translation from what Cruz could provide and what he can provide in Brazil. But again, he's never been even considered in the first 11, and he's not even been there. He's not even there. So again, I don't have any expectations, but the best three for me in our midfield is André as 5, Bruno as 8, and Paquetá as 10. Having Rodrigo and Vinicius there in the front with André. But I don't know that's gonna happen. I know that's not gonna happen actually.
Okay, interesting. But I totally agree. I think that's the best platform. And I think when it's very easy to play that kind of, for example, let's say Dorival went with those 5 and they didn't really play to the best. I think when you find the balance that you want, you have to stick with it a little bit, give it a little bit of time to kind of work. But back to what you said, I agree. I agree completely. I think
But
Andre has to
mate,
play.
let me just interrupt you for a moment. I know you have to insist on your system to see until the point that okay, it doesn't work anymore. I've tried, but now we can change. But you have to understand the pawns that you have to use, and he is insisting to play João Gomes, and he's shown not just in Copa America, but if you watch him playing for in the Premier League for Watford, he's not that player that he's looking for. So there is no hope there anymore. I don't know why he was even called up. So I just want to state that because again, João Gomes is not supposed to be there after Copa America. He's not supposed to be there from the intentions that our coach have for him. And yeah, so there's no hope. Insisting now is craziness. So sorry, but I had to say
But
it.
Dorival was uh Flamengo coach when João Gomes was at
Yes,
Flamengo.
yes,
Maybe this is why. Maybe he's got a
yes.
blind spot
That's
with.
why Lucas Moura is there also.
Yeah,
You know?
true. He knows him. You can depend on him. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes coaches have favorites or blind spots, so maybe that's the case. But
Yeah,
I would 100% go with André. I think now that he's moved to the Premier League, um, but even without that, I think your balance is much better. He allows you to take the game to the opposition. João Gomez doesn't really allow you to take the game to the opposition because he's more defensive. He's excellent at breaking up play, like I mentioned. But Andre can do that. He can press high, but he can also dictate play a little bit more from the back, like we mentioned last time, right? He's
yeah,
excellent at block aggression. He evades pressure really well. He can drop into pockets of space and then offer an option and then allow his team to progress the ball and connect.
yeah.
And Joao Gomez doesn't offer those things exactly. And we mentioned this before, mate, but what about Joao Gomez as an eight? Now is your time to
Uh,
unload.
yeah, no, that's one of the craziest statements that anybody in football could make by saying that João Gomes could be an eight or is an eight. He's not at all. He has to find his place. Now that André is there, he's not going to be a holding midfielder. Also, he's going to stick to his role there, which is good for him, for the club, because he's kind of performing there. But yeah, João Gomes is not that. Is not an eight. He's not our eight. He's not supposed to be our eight. And when you have André as a five and Bruno Guimarães, who has more quality on the ball, passing the ball, creating, transitioning, uh, has a has vision because João Gomes doesn't have any. So I wouldn't compare even. So yeah, João Gomes needs to stick to being an eight in Watford and leaving an eight for another player in Brazil.
Yeah. Wolves, you mean, by the way.
Well, sorry.
So yeah, that's a good point. Like an eight for Wolves is very different for an eight for Brazil, right? Um, so that's why I think Joao Gomez can play as an eight for Wolves, but Brazil, no. It's the things that he doesn't really excel at, or doesn't really have that ability. There's some limitations there, right, for him to be able to do those things. But he's very good six, I think. But probably not really what Brazil need. So the balance we've got. Is there any other players there, like for example, Gerson? Is Gerson worthy of
Yeah.
some space?
Yes, for sure, for sure. He has Gerson has I'm gonna say in the Brazilian accent. Gerson has all the qualities that a number eight could have. Uh, he has vision, a lot of anticipation, really smart, really intelligent player. Has all the skills, not just to dribble in short spaces, but to evade pressure. He can transition the ball really well, find spaces. So he's a very complete number eight, and it will be a really nice task for him, for us, Brazil, to have him playing for both games. Actually, yeah, I want to see him play.
Yeah, I think it's a smart decision by Dorival because I think he can fit in more than some other players in this particular moment. I think he'd be able to just pick it up quite quickly. So I think it's a bit of a smart decision for him to be brought. So mate, I want to talk about fullbacks now because uh, this is a really strange not even era. It's like a strange long era for Brazil regarding fullbacks because Brazil doesn't really seem to produce the ones that they used to. I mean, you had, of course, you had Cafu and Roberto Carlos for so long, and there was even guys behind them who probably would have had a good look in, but they're not going to surpass those two. And then Dani Alves and Marcelo for a long time too.
Yeah.
And then since
Also,
those two,
Maicon.
Maicon, yeah, you had Maicon even as a backup or an alternative. Since then, the fullback era's died a little bit, and I'll just say the names of the fullbacks for the Seleção is Danilo, Vendel, um, William, Arana, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what's going on?
uh, the bar is too high now. The bar is too high for us psychologically. Who is going to replace Roberto Carlos? Okay, Marcelo, good. Who's going to replace Cafu? Maicon, Dani Alves. They had their time. They're really good for Brazil. Not comparing to Roberto Carlos and Cafu, but they were really really good, especially Marcelo, probably one of the best left backs ever. But when you set the bar that high and you don't have a replacement it's not even close, you tend to look down a little bit and say, "Come on, that's all we have." Even if there were a number, even if there were like a seven, in quality, it will be less than what we want. We want a guy who can perform really well in all games, performs for the club, big stages, and our names now are not that good
Yeah,
to make a point and be clear. Probably Wendell from Porto is the best out of the four.
yeah, potentially.
So having Wendell as our best fullback out of the four that we called up, that's crazy. I'm not saying that he's a bad player. I'm not saying that at all. But when you compare him to the legacy that we had, it's crazy. Who is going to fulfill that? No one. So yes, until we have someone on their stature, Roberto Carlos, Marcelo, Cafu, Mike, and Dani Alves, we're not gonna be able to even talk about this. It's a forbidden topic.
Yeah. I wonder if it's something within the development. And I don't mean like coaches and they're doing a bad job. What I mean is that um well, players growing up from this era, they want to be like Neymar, right? So there's a lot more, or they wanted to be like Neymar, let's say. There's a lot more desire for these kind of players, I think, to be a bit more inside.
Yeah,
So now we've got inverted wingers, right? Players don't really go on the outside as much as they used to.
yeah,
Whereas if you're a fullback, that would have been your you have to do it every time you attack, get around the back, get around the back. So
yeah,
now I think you're seeing players who want to come inside, go more towards the goal. So I think that might be something to do with it. So if you find yourself, because a lot of the fullbacks that become fullbacks, a lot of them will tell you, I used to play midfield or I used to play in attack. So for example, Alexander-Arnold, he used to play midfield when
yeah,
he was coming through the development, and then they realized that he had a weapon, so they put him on the as a right back.
yeah.
Whereas so that means that he's more adjusted to coming inside, doing things inside the pitch. So I wonder if it's something to do with that. And the guys who would be fullbacks are becoming wingers or midfielders. I wonder.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to wonder about. But I think if you watch bigger clubs playing now, or maybe medium clubs playing for the biggest leagues, you see that the role of a fullback is completely different than we had last decade. Completely different.
Yeah,
And when you think about the the generation that is going to come after that, who are they going to learn from? What are they going to learn from? What are they going to learn actually? And so it's kind of like the role or the position itself, it's changing,
yeah,
and we are in that transition that we're not going to have a follow-up. So we're not going to have
yeah,
someone saying, "Oh, I want to be like Cafu, I want to be like Roberto Carlos playing for Brazil, of course, but I want to be like Marcelo." Why? Because the system doesn't allow it anymore. So what are they going to do?
yeah,
But again, it's too soon to talk about that scenario in Brazil, because we are kind of like still maybe 5 or 10 years behind you in Europe. And maybe we're still going to see some players coming. Uh, and maybe in 10 or 15 years from now, we can say that, yeah, okay, since we don't have any more fullbacks, good fullbacks, amazing fullbacks as we had, now it's time to change our perspective and maybe have a different system. Because yeah, what we do have right now is something that is not pleasant to watch, is not exciting, and it's complicated because of the comparisons that we make.
Yeah. Actually, I think you made a good point there. That's like something I was just thinking. Brazil wouldn't be able to really play an effective 3-5-2. Um, I know, like some people have some qualms about that particular system, but even Manchester City and teams like that, sometimes they adopt their approach a little bit, just put three centre backs back there, one steps forward a bit more, and then the rest of the players have a bit more freedom to go forward.
Yeah.
Brazil can't even really do that because of the lack of players in those situations. I think you can't ask Vinicius Junior to play wing back because
Yeah.
I think it takes a lot away from what he does in attack, and he
When
doesn't
we
want to get
played 3-5-2, in 2002, we won the World Cup, but
yeah,
we had Roberto Carlos and Cafu.
exactly.
So it was different, you know. So it's again, if we play four in the back, five, three in the back, or five in the back, still the players are not up there. They're not up to the mission that they have to accomplish. You know, they're not. The standards are different for us.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So, mate, I think we've covered everything. So, if anyone wants to leave any comments about the Seleção, please do feel free to leave your comments. Just one thing before we do finish as well. Kyle was referring to the 5, and I was referring to the 6. So in Brazil, it's a 5, right? This position,
Yes, yes,
5.
yes.
Continentally, Europe, it's a 6. So we're talking about the same position. If anyone's confused about that, we are talking about the same position. If you'd like to stay up to date with our content and our videos, please hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the content we release. Also, please add your comments about which players you'd like us to cover. Remember, this is the channel that's going to cover all scouting analysis and scout reports, especially on players that you want to hear about. So please let us know.